Rams TV meets Shane Nicholson, and we've also got Fonz with us as well, who's in a cameo starring role this afternoon. Shane, we've got to know you a little bit on Rams TV just recently as one of our pundits who comes in and watches the current Rams team. Do you enjoy watching football as opposed to those days of playing football?
I do now, yeah. Now I'm 10 years retired. I struggled for the first 2 or 3 years, I have to be honest. I think it made it worse actually staying involved in the game because I was close to it. Some people might think that that was an easy way for me to get over it, but I found it difficult. But I'm absolutely loving what I'm doing now, so the journey I'm on now is incredible. So, do I miss football? Yeah, of course I miss it. I miss the big games, the big game that we've got coming up now. Of course you miss those days, you know, but I'm very happy in my life and the way it's going at the minute.
So you finished playing, then you were involved at Chesterfield for quite a while. So you actually found that transition quite difficult?
I think every player does. I think it's a scary moment because you think you're Peter Pan. Every player thinks that, you know, you're not going to get injured, your career's not going to finish, you think you're going to play till you're 45. Of course you can't do that. I did well, I played till I was 38. And it's when Roy was at Chesterfield, manager, and I was asked if I'd go on to the staff. And I went back to school, gave me a little bit of time to go back to school, get some qualifications, and I had 8 good years being a fitness coach there.
Fair to say that you've packed a fair bit into your 47 years, good and not so good?
It's been colourful, it's been eventful, a lot of drama, but I'm at peace now. That's the most important thing.
How difficult was it to get to peace? We're clearly going to talk about the darker days of Shane Nicholson's life, but how difficult was it to get back life on track?
It was difficult. The most difficult thing was making the decision to get back on track. It's not actually staying sober, it's not actually staying clean. It's the commitment to staying sober and clean. Because once you've made that decision, then that's it. That has to be it. But of course there's been ups and downs in the 20 years that I've been clean and sober. Of course it's not been easy, and it still isn't easy. But you deal with it day to day. You know, it has got easier over the years, for sure. But I've got a fantastic wife, 2 beautiful kids which have helped. This man's helped. You know, and a good set of friends. So yeah, life's good.
You say it's difficult to stay sober, stay clean. Is that because life always has its temptations? Life in general has its ups and downs? Well,
this world is designed, I believe, to try and trap us all anyway, to set us all up to fail, you know, and a young footballer with a bit of money, a bit of time on his hands, you know, and people, I've been asked the question 1,000 times, you know, is it because of the friends you hang around with? Is it because of the money you had? Is it because of the time that you had on your hands? And it was none of that. You know, it's the type of person I was. If I was a builder, you know, if I was a road sweeper, I would have still gone down the same route that I went down. It just happened to be that I was a footballer. I earned okay money. I had a bit of time on my hands, and I gravitated towards the people that mirrored what I did. And that was at every club that I went to, apart from the ones when I was sober, of course. But every club I went to, I never became friends with any of the players because I couldn't, because I was leading a double life. So I had my own friends here in Derby. Then when I went to West Brom, I had my own friends there as well. So it's like a double life that you lead.
Did your teammates suspect that you had this, as you call it, a double life?
I actually do talks at the minute for Sporting Chance Clinic, and one of my old teammates, roommate, Mark Patterson, is a coach at Gillingham. And when I was doing the talk at Gillingham, and I was explaining to all the young lads about the problems I had and how bad it was, Pato told me afterwards, he said I'd never have known. And he was my roommate. Because you become secretive and you can convince anyone of anything. You know, you're a compulsive liar. You're not a good person to be around, hence me not having many mates in football now, you see. So I can convince anybody of anything, myself including.
It's frightening.
It is, yeah. Scary times.
All right, we'll talk obviously in detail about those later on. But let's talk about Shane Nicholson at school, playing football at school, and as ever, getting that opportunity, getting that break. Every kid, every lad wants to play football, wants to be a professional footballer. So how did it come about for you?
Playing for my village team, playing for my school team, I lived in Collingham, over in Newark. At school, you kind of become one of the better players, so you get noticed. And I was noticed for my village team. I moved on to a team called Swinderby, which was like a nursery team for Lincoln City. From there, I got a trial to go to Lincoln City. I got in their academy. I signed a 2-year apprenticeship with them, and then after the first year of signing there, they offered me a professional contract.
How did you balance off that and school?
Well, it was difficult. I mean, I detested school, hated it, and school for me was more traumatic. My home life wasn't great because of my mum and dad's relationship wasn't great. My dad was an alcoholic, so that wasn't great. But school for me was traumatic because of the type of person that I was. I was very insecure, an insecure lad, and every day what I would do, I would visualise that going to school, the school teacher's going to ask me a question in front of all the class, and they laugh at me. So rather than that happen, I would create in school. I'd create something in the classroom and get kicked out or cause trouble. And because this would never have gone off in my head. Sorry, this would never have gone in reality. It was something that gone off in my head. And because of the humility, I couldn't handle it. Rather than fear that it would happen, I would cause something in the class and get kicked out.
So I guess football made you feel special.
It didn't make me feel special. It was a release for me, and that's where I felt safe. On a football field, I felt safe because, like I said, my home life was a bit turbulent. School, I detested. Being around people, I wasn't great. But going on a football pitch, it was like a release for me. I didn't really have to speak to people. I could just run around. It was energy that I could burn, and I found out I was quite good at it. So it was a bit of a release for me.
But I guess if you're at school and you're good at football, and okay, you may be disruptive in class, that gives you a certain status, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. I mean, you're a trouble causer. That's it. And you
but
get
you're
late.
a good footballer.
I was a good person. I always believed I was a good person. I was doing it for a reason. People wasn't concerned about why I was doing it. I was doing it because I was scared, and I was scared of being humiliated at school. But people don't want to know that. People aren't willing to find that out. And I'm not blaming it on the school or anything like that. I'm just saying they wasn't concerned about it. You're just a trouble causer. You're a trouble causer. So that's what you get labelled, and then some. Me being me, you kind of play up to the role as well, and that continued until really I left school.
Were the school aware of your family life?
No, they weren't aware of that. No, and they wasn't aware of it because they didn't say anything. Because you don't want to, broadcast the fact that what's going off at home. You want everyone to think that behind closed doors everything's hunky dory. But they was aware that I was, a keen footballer. They was aware that I was a good footballer. But in class, you'd be telling the teacher that you want to be a professional footballer, and you'd be laughed at and scorned at. You need to do better at school because you'll never be a professional footballer, and that kind of drove me a little bit more, in fact. So yeah, I had no problem with that at all. To be quite, telling me that I can't do something will spur me on to do it even more.
Was there any thought that you might want to get a proper job?
Never ever in my life. I couldn't imagine doing anything other than what I did. I lived and breathed football from having my dog. My first ever dog we had was an Alsatian called Sheba. I remember holding his tail, holding onto it, him dragging me up so I could walk, and then kicking the ball for the first time. And from that day, never stopped kicking the ball. Never stopped. It drove my mum crazy because in the back of the garages, the ball would be banging against the doors, and the next door neighbours would go crazy. But it kept me quiet.
Yeah, Darren Bent was telling us how he used to break all the glass in the garden shed.
I was like, no, I didn't actually do that, if I'm honest. I got sent out into some garages at the back, and they were wooden doors. I lost a few balls, I have to say, one or two in the big field behind. But yeah, I mean, it drove the neighbours crazy, absolutely mad.
So you tell the school teachers you're going to be a professional footballer, and then you get the opportunity. Did you grasp it when it came? Did you absolutely, I'm having some of this?
I always believed that I would be a footballer. From a very young age, I believed that I was a little bit different, in a good way and a bad way, as a kid growing up. A little bit weird, if I'm honest. Didn't have a lot of friends. I was popular because at school you are popular because you're good at sport, and that's how it works. But I was very socially inept. I didn't get on I couldn't talk to girls when I really wanted to.
But you're a footballer. They love footballers.
Well, this was me, and on the outside I was trying to put an act on, but on the inside I was just an absolute, a mess really, an absolute mess. So it was difficult. That's all I can say. It was really difficult, my school life.
Okay, so you get this opportunity with Lincoln City as an apprentice.
Yeah.
According to my records, you were the youngest ever player to play for Lincoln City.
Yeah, 1986, Burnley away was my league debut. So the youngest player since the war, I believe it was.
At 16 years and 172. So 16 and a half.
16 and a half, yeah. Wow.
And you're
crazy.
this insecure boy that you tell us, so a bit awkward around people, and yet suddenly you're going into a man's game.
And it wanted a man's game then as well, because I remember the player that I was playing against, Billy Rodaway, and he was renowned for being a bit of a brute, and he was. And I think I got took off after about 80 minutes at Turf Moor because he just kicked me all over the place. But for me, that's what I wanted. I wanted to be tested. If you told me I couldn't do something, I would do it. Rightly or wrongly, I would do it. Tell me I can't play against men, I will do it. And I'll fight back as good as anyone. So it was an opportunity for me to try and show other players that I was this big man that I thought I was. Of course I wasn't, because I was a little skinny little boy who was lost. But on the football pitch, I was at home. I wasn't great always great, but I liked being on there. I was comfortable.
Who was manager of Lincoln?
Initially it was, I had loads at Lincoln. Colin Murphy, George Kerr, Alan Clark. I had so many, Steve Thompson, so many managers at Lincoln, an awful lot. But I owe a lot to Colin Murphy, an awful lot, because, and George Kerr as well. They put me forward and looked after me, and Colin certainly did. A great man. A friend of the family now as well. I've got a lot of time for him. Like I say, he gave me my debut and gave me a chance. When we got relegated from the league in my first season, we went straight back into the conference, and he was under pressure, because we was the first club that stopped full time. Lincoln did. And he said that he was going to start me as left back for his first team, and he was under pressure not to play me, but he played me, and we ended up getting promoted that first year back. So that was a fantastic year, massive learning curve for me, it really was.
Yeah, so quite a baptism of fire. You're a young kid. Lincoln City lose their league status, which is something that is not easy to contend with, particularly for a club that Lincoln may not have graced the great heights, but they're just a well-known football club. Yeah,
they are. It's a lovely city as well. But I remember the game we got relegated. It was Swansea away, and I remember going on, and the manager saying, go and make a name for yourself. And we was getting all we needed to score. And obviously I didn't touch the ball within the 15 minutes I was on there, and it was the longest journey home from Swansea ever. We'd been relegated. We got back to Sinsel Bank. Everyone just went off home, and we met again Monday morning, had a discussion, and it was then where the manager said that we're going to stay full time and give it a good go.
Colin Murphy, of course, had links with Derby. In fact, was manager for a short while.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I think that was the link with Steve Buckley as well, because Steve Buckley, like I said, he was my hero at Derby. Steve Buckley, great left foot, and then he came to Lincoln, so that might have been a little link there as well. But a fantastic player, and I learned an awful lot from him, an awful lot.
So you start at this tender age in the Football League, and within a very quick space of time, you're playing non-league football. Yeah,
that was, as you say, a baptism of fire, massive. The non-league game back in those days, it really was rough, to put it mildly. I can't remember how many times I broke my nose in it, and I think I had 3 broken noses in the first year playing non-league, because I thought I was a bit of a tough lad, you see, and I was putting this big act on, and I'm playing against men, and at 16, 17, I had no chance, and I wasn't wise with how I played. I was just brave and silly, and I got picked off quite a bit. But it was such a huge learning curve for me, it really was.
But you say all that, the managers, and you've mentioned there were quite a few, clearly saw something in you, because you made a lot of appearances for Lincoln, and were there, 6 years?
Yeah, over 100 appearances. I can't remember how many it was in total, but it was a good first year. My first year, I think, I stamped my game on in the non-league. I proved I could do it. But it was at that time as well where I was drinking quite, even at 16, 17, I was drinking quite heavily then, you see, as well. So, and that was
the demons had started as young as that.
Yeah. I mean, before that. But the culture back in them days in football in the 80s, the drinking culture was massive. You know, your day off, you didn't spend it with your family, you had to go to the pub. And for me, that was perfect. Because it's a perfect scenario, because I watched my dad growing up and he just drinks. So I learned to do what my dad does, and that was an excuse. But that's what I did. And an opportunity for me to show these players at Lincoln what a good big man I am, I'd go out and drink with them. So I did. And very often, for being a slight little boy, you know, I could drink. And you kind of get a bit of a reputation for it, and you kind of try and live up to it. And then before you know it, it becomes a clutch.
How did that impact on the rest of your life at that time? I mean, again, you are still, as you say, a young boy.
I think because it was part of the game then, and part of the culture, drinking was in football then. So it wasn't frowned upon, for sure. You know, but my mum, bless her, she knew I had a problem. You know, she told me, oh, you'll end up like your dad, this, that, and the amount of times I got told that by my mum. I was kicked out of my home by my mum's house. She kicked me out and sent me into digs in Lincoln because she couldn't cope with me at home. So I lived in digs in Lincoln, and she didn't want me coming home at the weekends, and rightly so, because I was just a nightmare, really. Just a nightmare. Once I had a drink, I was all over the place. But I had demons inside me that I was battling from what I saw as a kid.
Didn't you look at your dad and say, actually, I don't want to be like that?
Well, you're either intrigued or you run a mile from drink. So I watch my dad at the pub, and he becomes this most popular person ever because he's laughing and joking, and everyone wants to be around your dad. So I'm thinking, oh, wow. So I remember my first ever drink, and it was at a school disco at 14, 13. And there was 3 of us. And I remember I had a can, like we nicked a can of lager. And I remember drinking it, and my analogy is, you're in a dark room, and as it touches my lips and my tongue, it's like a light goes off in my head. So it reacted differently to me how it would many other people. And I'm not saying from that day I was drinking every single day, because I wasn't. But every opportunity I got, I realised, wow, what is this? What is this? Because I was shy, it was making me confident. I was able to talk to girls, I was able to dance at parties. You know, it gave me that, what I never had. So it was brilliant. And I remember when I had the drink, my mate wanted a quick drink, and I didn't want to give him the can because I was scared he would take it. So I actually poured it in his mouth like that so he could have a little drink, then took it back. But yeah, that's unfortunate. That's how it started.
Again, mentioning Darren Bent, he was at Ipswich, and there was a real drinking culture at Ipswich. And like you, he started at a really young age. But there, when he was with Ipswich, and they were away in a team hotel, he was sent back to his room. You're not getting involved in any of this, but clearly at Lincoln and the players you were with, and maybe because you felt, this will make me belong, I'm one of the lads then.
Yeah, it never occurred on a Friday night in a hotel. But every opportunity the lads got to go out, and I got to go out, we'd go out, and I'd be the last man standing. You know, we wasn't. You know, I did drink at the wrong times. I didn't play the game drunk hundreds of times. You know, I tried to be as disciplined as I could do. But no, I'd be wrong to say that I'd be drinking in a hotel room on a Friday night. It wasn't the case. I probably was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and all weekend. But on the Friday night, in my head, that was enough to stay sober.
How did you do your fitness work?
I was a freak, really, fitness-wise. Every club I've been at, I think it's because subconsciously you know what you do in one life, you feel that you have to try and counteract it with all the other good stuff. So because I knew what I was doing, which was wrong, I felt that I had to be the best trainer. So my mentality was, I was never the best footballer, you know, but every club I've been at, I was a very good trainer. In fact, at Derby, Roy, bless him, he called me in, and there was rumours going around that I was obviously taking drugs. So Roy called me in, And he took me into his office, he sat me down and he says, listen, he says, there's 1 or 2 rumours going around that you've been taking drugs. I says, Gaffer, no. I says, do you know what, Gaffer? I says, it's true. I says, I have. I says, I got injured at Millwall, did my cartilage. I says, I tried it. I says, if you want to drug test me now, you can drug test me now. And I thought, please, because I tried to double bluff him. I thought, please don't, because I'd been out at the weekend. He says, no. He says, son, he says, thank you very much for being honest for me. He says, here's a crate of beer for being the best trainer. So I had 24 cans and went home and sat at home, me and my mate, and we got absolutely wrecked at home. Because, I mean, Roy didn't know. He was trying to help me, Roy was.
Of course,
and
yeah.
Eric Nicholson, Eric Steele, he pulled me and asked me as well. And there's players there that tried to help. But I was having none of it. None of it. Because I knew best.
Let's talk football. As I say, 6 years since we're back. What was the highlight?
At Lincoln?
Yeah.
My debut and getting promoted up into the league the first year, yeah, definitely.
As your career was going along, so you'd be early 20s by this time, were you aware that other clubs, you were doing enough to get noticed by other clubs?
Yeah, there was a lot of speculation. None of them was Derby though. None of them was Derby. Speculation: Wimbledon, Forest, I think Man City. So there's a lot of clubs and there's a lot. You know how it is. I never had an agent or anything, so it wasn't my agent doing the spin on things because we never had them back then. But there was a lot of interest for sure. But I was young and I was a left footer, and I'm playing in the first team, so that will always create a little bit of interest. I knew that, but did it go to my head? No, I don't think so, because I didn't allow football to go to my head. The drinking and the rest of it, the drugs and everything, that's what got out of control. You know, people have said, well, you know, did it go to your head? No, it didn't, because football to me was just a hobby. It really was a hobby. It was just something that I found that I was okay at.
So you moved to Derby in 1992. How did it come about?
I was training and Steve Thompson called me in and he said that we've accepted a bid from Derby.
So you didn't have much of a say in it then?
No. But I think I'd put a transfer request in because there was speculation. And then straight away he said, go and get showered. The captain of the team, Paul Ward, he drove me to Derby.
Could you not drive?
No. I think I was banned. I think I was banned at the time. Paul Ward drove me to Derby and we met Arthur. It was the scariest thing I've ever done. And he takes us into the chairman's lounge. And we're not even talking about wages, me and Paul, on the way up there. We're just thinking, right, you know, I was going to see what he's got to offer. So the first thing that Arthur says, he sits down, right, sit there, son. So I'm sat down, Paul sat there. And then he says, right, this is what I'm offering you. Showed me it. Right, I'll sign it. Didn't even look what it was as I was signing it. And as I signed it, that was it. Just like that. I didn't even know how much money I was on. I wasn't bothered, I was scared. I was just, well, let me get it signed. And for me, it was a relief, because in one sense, because I thought that all the trouble that I had in my life, I thought I was leaving behind now. I thought this is a new start. So in one respect, I'm going like that to all my troubles. But in reality, that I'm the problem. It's coming with me, which I found out, you know, in the years to come. But the first day in training at Derby was just something else. It's like your first day at school, but multiplied 1,000 times.
In what way?
Well, walking into the changing rooms, you know, this was a time when Derby was spending an awful lot of money. And I'm walking in, I'm sat next to Tommy, in between Tommy and Kits. Both, you know, big money signings. You've got Gabbers on one side, then you've got Shorty, then you've got Ted McMinn on one side. Just incredible. And my first training session, I remember it as if it was yesterday. And it was 11v11. And I thought, I've got to try and make an impact, because I weren't in the first 11. So I thought, right, the way for me to make an impact is I boot someone.
Right.
So I was marking Tommy Johnson. And the ball got played over the top for Tommy. I mean, Tommy's fast. He is fast. So I tried to keep up with him, but didn't. And I kind of scissored him. Arthur Cox sent me off. No, and he called me Abraham. Arthur did. Abraham Lincoln.
Oh, right, okay.
Right, he called me Abraham. Abraham, stop that, save that for the opposition. And he went and just sent me off, went absolutely crazy. And I apologised to Tom, and we saved that for them, don't do it to your own players. But yeah, I needed someone like that in my life at the time. Arthur, definitely.
Yeah, scary character.
Oh, yeah. A massive presence. You know, sometimes, not saying Roy didn't, because Roy did. Roy had a presence as well. But when Arthur Cox was walking around the training ground, you knew it. You knew it. And I have to be honest, in training was something that I never ducked out of anyway. I gave 100% every training session, because there's always an opportunity to improve. Always, and I always wanted to improve. So, yeah.
So here were new teammates. Sounds a little bit like when you first walk in, you're a bit in awe. But they're new teammates, they're a new opportunity, playing in the second tier of football. This is a real chance to make your mark, isn't it?
Yeah, it's massive, huge. It's what I wanted. I never wanted to make a lot of money in football. I wanted to play at big clubs. That's what I wanted. I liked the adulation. I liked the fact that I could run out in front of thousands of people and try and prove to them that I'm good at football. That's what I wanted. And this was, this is by far for me my best club that I've played at, I have to say. And some of the grounds that we played at and some of the players that I've played with at the club was just incredible. So it was, I remember debut was against Leicester City, I think, in the local derby. And we were training at Moorways, and Arthur called me over. And he says, right, he says, I'm thinking about starting you. What do you think against Leicester? Oh, wow, yeah, no problem, Gaffer, no problem. And he shouts Tommy over, and he's, Tommy, what do you think? Do you think he'll be all right? And Tommy's going, yeah, he'll be sound, Gaffer, he'll be sound. No problem. So that was it, I was in. And what a game. What a game, what an atmosphere. Leicester City versus Derby at the baseball ground, just unbelievable. I think it was Phil G I was marking, actually.
Oh, yeah, he'd have gone to Leicester from Derby.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, around that time.
Yeah. So that was my introduction to the baseball ground. Incredible.
So you run it, I mean, Central Bank, lovely place to play football. But as you say, you're running out a sort of East Midlands derby, Derby and Leicester, packed baseball ground, bit different.
Oh, unbelievable, yeah. I mean, the tunnel as well, walking out at the baseball ground, it's dead thin. And you're walking out, there's not many games that you walk out to where the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. But many occasions at the baseball ground it did do, I have to say. The Forest games and them games, and just brilliant. And because I made a lot of friends here as well. And I knew a lot of people. So it was good. I loved it, really enjoyed it, thoroughly.
How did you do in that first game?
I did well, actually. I was pleased. I wasn't never too concerned about what other people thought, because I always thought that, of course, you listen to your manager, and if he's not happy with you, then, But I think deep down, you always know whether you've done all right or not, and it was important for me because of the type of person that I was, that I impressed my teammates. I wanted to fit in. I wanted them to know that I was, I'm all right. You can play with us here, and I seemed to do that. I was all right.
Who were you replacing?
Michael Forsyth, Brucey. Yeah, I mean, what a player, what a stalwart at the football club, and a very, very good man as well. But we flicked in and out of the team. We flicked in and out of the team. I think Brucey went to centre half on quite a few occasions. And allowed me to play at left back. But yeah, what a good player Mickey was as well. I learnt a lot from him too.
So Derby would have just missed out on the playoffs in the year then that you joined them.
Yeah.
And there was a bit of transition time, as you say, money was being spent. So Paul Kitson, Tommy Johnson, Marco Gabbiadini would already be there. Craig Short came in, Darren Wassell, that sort of building time. And then there was transition in terms of the manager. Eventually, Arthur Cox went, and somebody you would play under later in your career, Roy McFarlane, took over.
Yeah. I didn't know how that was going to work out for the good or the bad for me, really. But I've always seemed to get on with Roy. I don't know whether he supported me as a player when I was going through what I was going through, but I've always liked him. I've a massive respect for him because of what he's done, for starters, in the game. And obviously playing at Chesterfield, he used to join in his 60s, still probably the best player on the pitch. So, I loved him. I liked him an awful lot. So, a lot of time for him.
I remember an Anglo-Italian trip away on Italian soil, and he was taking the training session, and somebody kicked this ball high in the air, took it down on his chest, let it roll down, and he smacked it back in one go, and you thought, yeah, he's still got it.
Yeah, well, the Anglo-Italian, in my contract, there's a story, in my contract, if I played 10 games in a row, and it had to be in a row, I'd get £100 a week rise.
Right.
So I played 9 games, and the 10th one was the Anglo-Italian. So there's rumours around going that he's going to drop me. Offer's going to drop me, and this was going to be my 10th game. I thought, please, come on, don't drop me off, please. But then obviously we got to the ground. He told us the team when I was playing, so I was over the moon because I was getting £100 a week more. But what an experience that was as well. Wow, Wembley, good grief.
The final.
Oh, yeah, just incredible. But they're what you dream of as a kid, going to Wembley.
This is the old Wembley as well.
Yeah.
Still special.
Oh, really, truly, yeah, just unbelievable. Can't say enough good things about it.
I mean, in a way, it was the warm-up for the playoff final a year later. We've mentioned Leicester against Leicester City, but we'll come on to that in a second or so. Actually, the Anglo-Italian Cup for Derby was a great experience. Getting all the way to the final. Okay, lost in the final to Cremonese, but just good experiences along the way, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a good test, isn't it? You want to, for me, again, you want to test yourself against people that are higher up than you in your game, and especially against foreign players as well. And it has to be said, they gave us a bit of a run around, if I'm quite honest. You know, technically they're much better than us, but like you say, Colin, it was a fantastic experience. You know, it really was, and one I'll cherish, I have to say.
Let's talk about the goal. Sheffield Wednesday, was it 3-3 it finished in the end?
Yes, it did, yeah.
At the baseball ground.
Yeah.
And somebody steps up. I think Wednesday got the lead. I think Wednesday took the lead. And this fullback comes bombing forward and lets fly, and suddenly it's in the top corner.
I don't know about bombing, but I remember
Cruising?
Yeah, cruising. And I think it was Gabbers that got fouled. And then Cooley got the ball. So I let Cooley have it, and then everyone just seemed to walk back towards the 18-yard box. And I looked at the goal and I thought, crack, I'm miles out. I thought I was a bit too far out, but because they kept walking back, I shouted him, I said, Cooley, give us it. And he played it to me, a little square ball. And I remember just knocking it out my feet. I remember just putting my head down, not even looking at the goal. Just with all my might in my little skinny body, I thought, I'm just going to hit it as hard as I can. And I did. And as I hit it, I remember it hitting my foot, just sweet. I remember it just hitting it. The next thing I know, I've got like Jossie jumping on me back because it had gone in. Again, as you know, what a memorable evening. Yeah, was it an own goal? People keep telling me it was an own goal. Get the Rothmans book out and that'll tell you that it wasn't. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it's in the record box. Shane Nicholson.
Exactly.
So you didn't actually see it go in the net?
No. I remember just hitting it. I can't remember if I fell over after I hit it because both my feet come off the floor. And I knew I was a long way out, but I knew they dropped right off deep. And I thought, if I'm going to hit it, I'm going to have to absolutely smack it. And it's either going to go, land on forest ground or go in the top corner. And it did do, thankfully, off the back of Chris Woods.
I was going to say Chris Woods was in goal, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. England's number 1.
Yeah.
Was. Not after that, he won't. I don't think he played for England again after that.
It was a hell of an FA Cup tie, wasn't it?
Incredible. It went back and forth. I remember scoring it, and I thought, please don't give the ball to Chris Waddle now, because I was just drained. Everything had just depleted from my body. Everything. And I felt like I was running on quicksand. And in fact, a couple of nights before, I was having nightmares about him, if I'm honest, about Chris, because he was a special player.
Yeah.
And that was a good team that they had.
Yes.
Very, very good team at the time.
Well, they got to the final, didn't they?
Yeah. Very, very good team at the time, and some great players. But he was giving me nightmares. So people will say, well, just boot him. Just give him a kick. But you try and catch someone first. Yeah. You've got to kick him. You know what I mean? So it's a bit harder doing that. But yeah, a great occasion. I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Did you play over in your mind then how you were going to deal with him? How you were going to get the better of him?
I just wanted him not to make me look a fool, if I'm completely honest, because he wasn't very fast, Chris Waddle wasn't, but with the ball, he moved the ball. Now, I've seen players run with the ball in straight lines and they're fast, but Chris could run at pace, but move the ball as well, which, you ask any defender, are so difficult to defend. So difficult, because you're not running back in straight lines. So I've either got to try and get close and give him a kick, which, you know, little old me trying to give Chris Waddle a boot, he's probably just going to laugh at me, do you know what I mean? But I came out of it all right. You know, I came back to where I scored a goal and I felt I defended quite well against him.
Did he say anything to you about the goal?
He did, but he had a strong Geordie accent, didn't he? I couldn't understand it. I think I asked Tommy to translate it. Because him and Tommy were like having a bit of banter between themselves.
It was, as I say, it was a great night at the baseball ground. Derby lost the replay in the end. Was it just 1-0?
Yeah, 1-0. But it was the emergence of Paul Walrus at the time, wasn't it, as well?
Of course, playing up front.
Yeah, he went
goals,
from centre off and
yeah.
scoring loads of goals up front. And he continued that Reach of Aina form against us, didn't he?
Yeah, he scored in the 3-3, and I think he scored the winner at Hillsborough.
I think he did, yeah. Yeah. So, in fact, he came to Chesterfield later on in my career as well, Paul Walrus.
Fons is so impressed that we're talking about your goal, he's come back to join us.
He's heard it 1,000 times and he'll be fast asleep soon. He knows all about it. He knows all about it. This is the settee, actually, that I make my kids sit on before they go to school every day, and I make them watch the goal. Not really. But people believe that I do that. They do.
Was that the high point of your career?
At Derby?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Just signing for Derby and being around the players, being at the club. My big opportunity to play in good games. So yeah, it was a massive club. You don't realise at the time, as a player you take everything for granted. It's not until you finish that you realise what a club you was at. And now I have a bit of affiliation with the club again, you realise how special it is. The history of the club and things like that. Yeah, it's really impressive.
So you said, I'm going to come to Derby, bye-bye demons, bye-bye drink, bye-bye drugs, but no.
No, again, you think that you're leaving everything behind. Yeah, all your demons, so to speak. But of course, I was bringing them all with me because I am the problem. But as an addict and as an alcoholic, you don't analyse yourself. Because if you start analysing yourself, that's when you know you've got problems, and that's when I'd have just, fell to the floor and in despair. So you try and deflect it off to everyone else. So it's his fault, it's her fault, it's their fault. And I'd blame everyone. Blame everyone. Never listened to my mum once. Never, ever, ever.
Do you listen to her now?
Yeah. I mean, my relationship with my mum was terrible. Bless her. But I have to say that my mum taught me possibly the most important lesson in life, and that was unconditional love. She had so many opportunities to disown me for what I did and how I treated her. So many, but never did. Never, ever did. The way I treated her, the way I abused her. Awful. Awful, it really was. Nothing to be proud of. I don't say it to glamorise anything that I did. I was awful. And she's still here, and she still to this day phones me up, asks me how I'm doing and how's football, and bless her. She's beautiful.
You've got two girls, do they know?
They know everything.
Yeah,
I don't hide anything from them. Because I think you have to be, certainly with kids, you must be transparent. Because I think they'll see straight through you. I take great enjoyment in going to football clubs and to schools talking about it, not because I like to glamorise it, because I know that there's a massive problem out there. Massive problem. With drink, with drugs, with gambling, with everything. The addictions are they're rife, they really are. And I think it's important that kids hear from someone that's been there, seen it, and now 20 years clean and sober. So I think that holds a bit of weight.
Rams TV meets Shane Nicholson, playing at Derby because Derby County means so much to the local area and that the players are local superstars. Did the adulation start to come and you start to think, hey, I'm something special here?
Well, anyone that tells you that they don't like the adulation, I'll have to call them a liar, because you live for that. I did. because for me as a player, as a person, I always felt it was me against the world. I had to prove myself all the time, and I wanted reassurance that I was doing all right. So the bigger the crowd, in my head, right, I'm going to prove to each and every person in this football ground that I am this tough left back, you know, and he's worth his money, and he's this and he's that. So the bigger the crowd, the better, and I thrived on it. Absolutely thrived on it. There was a bit of nerves, of course there was, because you don't want to look silly. But yeah, I mean, the adulation, of course, that's something else that you miss when you quit playing.
And this is all the insecurity.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but the insecurities didn't go. They only went when I was on the pitch. That's the only time my insecurities left. And then when I left the pitch, it's like training. On every single day in training, I never wanted sessions to finish, because once the sessions had finished, it meant me going back to trying to lead a normal life, and I was rubbish at it. Rubbish. I didn't know how to do it. It sounds pathetic, because I was pathetic. You know, I really was. So I found things difficult, but for me, football was it was easy. It was a doddle for me, and because I was safe there. That's the best way to describe it. I was safe, yeah.
You could have had then the adulation of playing in front of a crowd of 70-odd thousand at Wembley Stadium against Leicester City in May 1994. You'd played pretty much all that season. I think you'd played in the semis against Millwall and come through, but you missed out on the final.
Yeah. This is one thing that actually, when I sit back and think about it, upsets me, I have to say, because it was an opportunity, like you say. A kid growing up, I wanted to play at Wembley. I wanted to be a professional footballer. So, being a professional footballer, and to play against your local rivals, or one of your Midland rivals at Wembley, like you say, massive. And I was going to play as well. But because of me, because of the lifestyle I was leading, we was leaving to go to Wembley, I think, on the Thursday, playing on the Sunday. And I went out. I thought, well, I'll go out on the Wednesday night then and get my last drink with my mates. We got into a bit of trouble, and there was a big fracas in town, and we got locked up. Well, I got locked up, and I had one phone call to make when I got to the police station. So I'm either going to phone my missus, my mum, or the gaffer. So I had to phone the gaffer because we're in training the next day and they're leaving to go to Wembley. So I get about 3 words out and he slammed the phone down on me, and they're off to Wembley. And it's quite ironic that we're playing Leicester, because they're going to Leicester, to Wembley, to walk out in front of 80,000 people, and I'm going to Leicester prison to walk on my landing and get in my prison cell, which wasn't great, I have to say, but it was life for me. That's the choice I made. Do I regret it? I don't have regrets. I believe that everything I've gone through was for a reason. It made me who I am. Am I ashamed? No, I'm not ashamed of what I did, because that wasn't me back then. You know what I mean? That really wasn't me. This is who I am today. Would I've liked to play at Wembley? Of course I would. Of course I would, but I have to live with that now. You know, and that is one massive, it's a wrench on me when I think about it. Because as I say, for me, because of the person that I am, to play in front of even more people, I knew I'd have flourished in it. Because I want to prove everyone wrong. I want to prove them all. So 80,000 people, wow. But no, I was eating a bit of porridge instead and doing my thing in prison.
For a lot of people, that might have been the defining moment where it was, I have just missed out on arguably the biggest occasion I could ever have played in, and here I am in prison. That might have been, I've got to do something about this.
Well, yeah, I think what you're doing, you're waiting for an epiphany to happen, but it didn't happen for me in prison. That didn't, you know, one did later on, which I'll talk about, but it never happened for me there. Because of the type of person that I was, for me, in my head, being in prison kind of ticked a box for me. Because in my head, the mentality of a man was someone who goes out drinking and gets in trouble and goes to prison. So I've ticked a box, ridiculously. But of course, it played, you know, problems with my career, my football career. So obviously when I came out, Derby wasn't too keen of keeping me, quite obviously. So when I came out of there, they sent me to West Brom. West Brom bought me. I went on loan, I think, for 3 months first. I had a good 3 months, and they ended up buying me. So yeah, it was a massive, you know, it was awful. I mean, prison was terrible. I remember my first day there, I remember getting showered. And you hear all the stories about prison, this, that, and the other. And I remember getting showered in the showers. So I'm there and I'm getting clean, and there's two blokes showering next to me, and they're talking about getting this bloke on the next landing upstairs, killing him. And I'm like, oh, good grief, what am I doing here? What am I doing? I thought, this might be my epiphany now, it might happen, but it still didn't. And then you just, these things that you hear, it's natural for people, you know what I mean? It's like, what is this? So I just got dressed, went up to my cell and stopped in my cell and did my bit of time and got out as quick as I could.
How long were you in?
A few weeks. Yeah, it was awful. Because I'm going in there thinking I'm a big man. Then I get in there and I'm like, oh, that's how big a man I am. Until I come out and you think you grow because you've been to prison. And I know that sounds stupid, but when I go and do my talks in school and things, I see the mentality of kids that people that's been to prison, they kind of like look up to them. And I think, come on, please. So I try, you have to get the message across to them, because prison to some people is not scary. It isn't. It's a home for some people. Some people haven't got homes, so that's a roof over their head. You know what I mean? And they're conditioned to them conditions, some people. So, but not for me, no. I didn't want to go back there.
So you went to West Brom, and did you think again, goodbye troubles, here's a new start? Or were you...
Yeah, I did, but because I kept my house here, so I was living in Derby. And at the time I was banned from driving, which didn't help. So then I had to get a friend to drive me to West Brom every day to training. Bless him. For the 3 months that I was on loan there, my drinking kind of escalated quite badly. And that was because while I was there, that's when my dad took ill. And it was out of the blue, and he had a brain tumour. It happened when I was at Derby, actually. But then I got put onto loan there. And he had a tumour, he went in hospital, and he didn't want to find out how long he got left to live. My dad didn't. But the doctors told me and my sister, because it was me and my sister that went, because my mum couldn't handle the doctors and places like that. So we went, and they told us he's got like weeks to live. This has just come out of the blue. Wow. So we're walking out of the doctors, and my dad's telling me how he wants me to take him to the gym and get him fit and this, that, and then I'm thinking, wow, I've just been told that you're going to die in 8 weeks. So having to, and it's not an excuse, but having to deal with things like that, with the mentality that I had, there's only one thing I'm going to do. Only one thing. And I was going to explode, because I was a volcano just walking around. And that's what I was. You know, and the beer and the drugs, they just added to it. Rather than put that fire out that was in me, it kind of stoked it up, and it would every now and again, you know. And it wasn't until late in my 30s really I talked about things that had gone off, that fire got put out. Because I was volatile, really, really volatile, awful. And it's because I never spoke about things. I didn't talk, because as men we don't talk. It's weak. It's weak to talk. So going back to my dad, he was rushed into hospital, and as I said, I would always get a phone call from my mum after a game, and we played Leeds at West Brom, and he'd been in hospital, he'd come out, he'd had the operation, he'd gone home, been put in a hospice, he'd been in there 8 days, not opened his eyes for 5 days. And I had a call from my mum as usual, but this one was different, because she says, right, you better get home quick, because your dad's going to die. You know, you won't see him now when you get home, so come now. So I'm in Birmingham, West Brom, and I've got to go back to Newark. So I get in my car, and I think I'm just driving straight back to Newark, but subconsciously I am, but I'm not, because I call up my dealer's house, and I stop there for an hour and have a few drugs, a few bottles of beer, knowing that my dad's going to die. And the night goes on, and I have a call from my mum about 6:30. By 8:30 I'm still there, 10 o'clock still there, 4 in the morning I'm still there. By 7 I think, do you know what, time to go. I'm sure he's waiting for me. So I drive home on my own, wired, and I burst through the hospice, the doors, and my mum and my two sisters are sat there. And as I go through the doors upstairs where my dad was, that they burst open, and the nurses shouted, "So you better come quick." So we dash upstairs, and he laid there, not opened his eyes in 5 days. I hold his hand, and his eyes opened for the first time. The room for me just lit up bright, and that was my epiphany then, why I became a believer, because it just went white, and he passed away for his last breath. So why do I tell you that? Because in life, when I try and tell people about addictions and people say, people don't understand it, I had a choice. You go see your dad for the last time alive, or you could take drugs. It's up to you. You make your choice. Well, I chose the drugs over seeing my dad alive for the last time. So that's the pull that a drug, any addiction can have on you. I was willing to risk it. And if my dad had passed before I got back there, I'd have killed myself. 100% I'd have killed myself. I'd have drove my car into a bridge or something. I don't know what I'd done. But I killed myself. So I have to thank the Lord daily that he was kept alive for me to get back there. And from that day I wished, or I promised, that I would try and be the best version of me I can be, because I truly believe that he passed so I could become the new me, be the best person of me. So that was a traumatic time. Traumatic time, because as bad as a father as he was, and he wasn't a great role model, he was an alcoholic, we knew that he loved us. And obviously back in them days they didn't have what we have now. So I understood why he was, I understood why he did the things that he did. That's why I can forgive him, because I've done most of them now as well. Hence, going back to my mum, what my mum said, you'll end up like your dad. So your mum's never wrong. Very, very rarely your mum's wrong. And that was that, yeah. So I found that tough, really tough, getting over my dad died. I mean, it's 20 years now, but even talking about it now, it's, raw, really, really raw, but it's life. And I dealt with it in the way that I knew how to deal with it, and that was to continue drinking and to continue taking drugs. And at the time I was at West Brom, and I'd failed one test. So my way of getting through that was I paid someone to lie for me about the test. And they had to come to London with me in front of all the big rigs. David Dean and Jeff Thompson and all the FA people. So I had to make out that my friend wasn't my friend. And he had to come with me, and he had to sit in front of them all, and he had to plead for me and say that yes, we did spike his drink, yes, this, but... So we went out after an hour of interrogation on my friend, and they called us back in and said, right, listen, we believe what your friend said. Wow, yes. And it was a relief, only because I continued taking drugs. That was it. And then, secondly, I can continue playing football. So, at the time, it was Ray Alford, his manager. He drove me back to the station. I jumped on the train. My friend was hid round the corner, who wasn't my friend. We got on the train, went back to Derby, and we got absolutely legless on the train. And then I ended up getting banned from the local pub in Derby. So just your mindset is just ridiculous. I remember my first 6 months in Derby. This is my big chance, and I'm on curfew within 6 months, and I'm banned from driving within 6 months. So I can't imagine the impression I can. I can imagine the impression that I gave to the people at Derby, but yeah, it was them times were really painful, and I'm just blessed to be where I am today, I have to say, really.
It's some story to tell, I've got to say. Eventually, the drugs get you sacked from West Brom and banned from football. So you've had the epiphany moment where your dad's died. What's the point where you finally say, enough is enough? Come on, Shane Nicholson, get out of this. I wouldn't even say get out of a rut. Get out of this life that you are leading. And let's have something to live for?
Well, because of the first time that I'd failed my test, but I got away with it. See, I always knew that drug testers would come on a Monday, so I was very clever. So I would actually carry my own sample around with me, a clean sample. So when I'd been done once at West Brom, that's what I'd do for a while. So for 3 months, I carried my sample around with me, a clean sample in my wash bag. So when they came, I'd gone 3 months by really not having any gear. I'd done quite well, but my drinking had escalated terribly. But eventually the testers came. I knew I'd passed. I passed, went out that night and celebrated the way I celebrate in Birmingham with my West Brom lads and friends, and got absolutely wasted because I'd done one over on the testers because I'm dead clever. Didn't sleep all weekend. Went back into training Monday morning, and it was like, I remember training and we were playing at the bottom of this hill, and it's like my life had gone in slow motion because I saw 3 suits walking towards the training ground and I knew exactly who they were. My heart sunk. It sunk and I felt sick. I actually felt I was actually going to make out I had an heart attack. These things were, I was going to run away, I was going to make out I had an heart attack, just anything just to get me off the field. Because I knew who they were, and I knew if they test me, I've had it. Because, you know, I'm banned for life. I'm not banned, I'm banned for life. So what do I do? And each step they brought towards the ground, towards where we were training, I was thinking of different ideas. The heart attack one was seeming to be the favourite one. But I thought, you know, I'm not going to be able to pass that. So I knew as well that my name would be drawn out of the hat, because apparently they draw your name out of the hat. But they'll probably have 16 Shane Nicholsons in there, I have no doubt, which they did. So they draw my name out of the hat. We're walking back to the pavilion. And at West Brom, we used to have cubicles to get showers. There wasn't one big shower. And I took my clothes into the cubicle. And when you get tested, they literally stand side by side. I mean, it's man marking, it really is, to the hilt. But I said I need to have a shower, so they let me go in for a shower, but I sneaked my clothes in, and I jumped out of the window. And it was like a scene out of Dukes of Hazzard. I jumped in this car, like half naked, shot off back to Derby. And my phone was going crazy. And I thought, oh God, I'll just do what I did. I buried my head in the sand and just turned it off. That's the best thing to do. And I got back home, and as I walked in the door, I had a little 2 up, 2 down in Littleover, and I'm pulling all my plugs out, shutting the curtains. And as I sit down, I'm like, oh, the Lord. And then as I sat down and my eyes open, I realised, I thought, what? Bang! It was like a lorry just hit me. What have you done? What have you done? And I thought, I've got to phone Joseph up. So I phoned Joseph at work, who was my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, and she came home. And in my head, I've got the solution. The solution is, you know, I'm going to be a builder or a postman because you can take drugs doing that. That's what I wanted to do. I was convincing myself I want to do that. And she's like, what are you on about? What are you being stupid? Because I knew I'm going to get banned for life. So eventually she talks me around, and I phoned Brendan Batson up at the PFA. Brendan was incredible to me, and I explained to him how long I've been taking drugs, to the extent I've been taking drugs. So what I had to do then was go to a hearing in London. After hearing what I had to say, and my mum was with me that day, my mum didn't know I was taking drugs or taken drugs before. So that was a bit problematic, to say the least. So after that, they said to me, right, you're banned indefinitely for life. I thought, wow. I wasn't concerned about that, if I'm honest. But they said, what we're going to do, we're going to send you to clinic for 4 months in Southampton, in Marchwood Priory. And I forgot about the football, because in my head, I thought, I just knew that I'd get back playing. I knew I would. So they sent me home. For 3 weeks I had before I go to the clinic. So for 3 weeks I'm out every single day, because it's like, right, this is it. I've got to get as much beer in me and as much drugs in my body as I can do, because after this, that is it. I know what it can do to me there, or I thought I did. So for 3 weeks I just went AWOL really, and absolutely obliterated my body. Eventually the time come round where I went to Marchwood. My friend, my best mate, he gave me a lift up there, and on the way there I read my first book ever. and it was Paul Merson's Addicted book. And it kind of mirrored a lot of things that I'd done and said and how we acted and things like that. And I ended up spending 4 months in the clinic, which was daunting, to say the least.
Did you think it'd be a breeze?
I didn't know what to expect, if I'm honest. I mean, you get there, the windows are locked. My first night there, because you're on 15-minute watch, because you're on detox, you can't shut your doors, no TVs, no phones. And there was this old lady walking up and down the corridor with nothing on, with just this blanket on, shouting ridiculous things. Thinking, oh, good grief, how did it get to this? And I was probably more scared in there than I was the prison, because I knew what was coming. And then obviously you're up at 6, and people might think, well, you're at a clinic, it's where all these pop stars go, but it's completely different. You're up at 6, you're in the classroom at 7, half 7, and you're talking about you, which is, as an addict, is a no-go. So in our class it was probably 12 to 15, and as soon as you start talking about yourself and you hear other people talk about themselves, and even when I was there, I didn't believe I was an alcoholic. I wasn't having it. Was not having it at all. I knew I was a drug addict. I knew I had a problem with that. Alcoholic, I wasn't having it. And then she explained to me about, how it's a disease, this, that and the other, and I kind of came to terms with it and realised that, I've probably got a problem. And you're kind of honoured in places like that, because people are sharing so much stuff with you that, the stuff I shared with people, I've not told you half, really, I don't suppose, but when you hear people say it and why because there's a reason why we all do things. There's a reason why I'm a drug addict and an alcoholic. It's not just because I wanted to have a go. There's a reason behind it. And I was an insecure lad, and there's a reason why I was an insecure. So I do 4 months in the clinic. I leave the clinic and I'm told that I have to go back to a meeting in London and speak to Mr. David Dean, who was like the person that we all had to speak to again. And I had the professors come from the clinic with me, and they was overawed by the progress that I had made, and the counsellors. So the PFA and the FA decided to give me a second chance, which was if I'm honest, I thought they would. But nevertheless, it was still, wow, I can earn some money, but legit. And I started playing football again. But I had an option to play either at Preston with David Moyes or at Chesterfield, but I had to go to clinic every day for 6 months in Nottingham. So every day I finished training, I then had to go to clinic in Nottingham. So obviously the ideal club would have been Chesterfield. And it was the hardest year. It should have been the best year, but the hardest year ever, because I'm playing sober and clean. And I'm not saying I used to go on the pitch drunk. I'm not saying that, but because my whole facade about me was this big tough man. Now I'm having to deal with my raw emotions without falling to the clutch that I had of drink and drugs. And I thought, wow, I've got this tough image of playing football, so how do I keep that up? How do I keep that up? That's going to be tough. But eventually, it comes through. Your professional instinct, your winning instinct comes through, and it was a tough year. But as I say, I like to challenge, and here we are, 20 years down the line. I'm still sober and clean. So yeah, it was a tough year at Chesterfield, that first 1 year.
It's an incredible story to hear. The best bit is that you actually came out the other side.
Mm.
Was there a defining moment in that when you were in the Marchwood Priory, or you were at Chesterfield and having to go to this clinic every year? Was there a defining moment when you say to yourself, I'm never going back?
I think with me, it was I was so weak, I had to be caught to stop, because I couldn't stop. People say, well, how difficult is it to stop your addiction? I've explained to you the story about the addiction and what pull it has. So it's not necessarily the stop doing what you're doing, it's actually making that decision. Because as an addict, you're the last person that believes you're an addict. Everyone else knows. You just want someone to tell you, you just want to believe them. but you don't because you're scared. So was there a defining moment? No, there wasn't. I think it was an accumulation of things, and again, me being weak and actually getting caught. You know, I believe that's the only way I'd have stopped me getting caught. I'd have just keep going and keep pushing the buttons and keep pushing the buttons and keep going. So yeah.
But Chesterfield and Roy McFarlane proved to be your renaissance in football.
Well, they did, yeah. But I mean, the first time I went back there was with John Duncan. He was manager there, and as I say, I was hoping it was going to be a good year, but it wasn't. It was terrible.
Did you get an injury and that got an infection?
That was in the second time. In the first year, I had a year there, and then got a move from there to Stockport back in the Championship, which I was really pleased about. But I just wanted it to be a happy year, all nice, but of course it's not going to be, is it? Not going to be. And
it's reality.
Yeah, yeah. But I wasn't used to that, and I didn't like reality because I masked it all with all sorts of nonsense. I lived in some silly little bubble of my own, you know. But yeah, what should have been a good year, it wasn't. But it served its purpose. I'm thankful for Chesterfield because then, you know, I obviously came back there later on in my career. But from Chesterfield, I went to Stockport, played in the Championship, which was an incredible time for me. A really good team, a good manager. I was lucky enough to captain the club a few times in the Championship, which I was very proud of. And then from Stockport, I got a move to Sheffield United, to Neil Warnock's team, which I always wanted to play for his team because I detested playing against his teams. And I wanted to play for a team that people don't like to play against. You know, that kind of summed me up a little bit. But obviously when I got there, it wasn't what I thought it was all cracked up to be. And in fairness, with Sheffield United, I was off to a bad start because the last 2 games for Stockport that I played, they knew I signed like a pre-contract with Sheffield. And I got sent off in the second to last game at QPR, which meant I'd missed the first 3 games for Sheffield United, but I didn't tell Neil Warnock that.
Right.
He found out probably about a week before the season started.
But he was happy.
Yeah, he wasn't very happy at all, so it was emergency loan and get somebody in. So my career at Sheffield, I was in and out, and then I ended up getting a loan to, I moved to Tranmere, which I loved, great club, 2 good years there. We played Chesterfield in the Cup at Tranmere, and I remember Jamie Hewitt, who was a physio, and he ran on to treat one of his players, and I said to him as he ran, I went, ask Roy if he wants a left back. So, cause I'm out of here this year, I don't think I'm getting a contract here, ask him if he wants a left back. And that's how I got, when the season finished, that's how I ended up going back to Chesterfield. Jamie went back off the pitch, told Roy that, and I ended up signing for him, and the rest was history at Chesterfield. Some great years there.
That's, I think, where you had your most fun.
Yeah, that I could enjoy, because yeah, I didn't know how to enjoy myself, if I'm honest. My enjoyment was not the normal person's enjoyment. But I learnt a lot with Roy. Privileged to play for a lovely club, lovely family club, really nice. And he gave me the opportunity to get into the coaching side of it and the fitness side of it. So, you know, I have a lot to thank him for.
But with all you'd had to go through and come through, you go back to Chesterfield for this second time, you get an injury, and you get an infection in the injury.
Yeah, it's yeah, that's one of them things in football. You know, I had a bad knee injury. I went to hospital, it got infected. I came out, I was on recovery. I'd been in recovery about 2 months, played at Sheffield Wednesday in a friendly, and it just didn't seem right. My knee didn't hurt it again. So then I went out on loan to Lincoln City in Boston. Obviously Lincoln was where I started my career. I had 2 months at Lincoln, then went to Boston, which I have to say was, it was like a circus. And I actually thought going there that, you know what, I don't deserve this. And I phoned Roy up and I says, please, just get me home. Get me back to Chesterfield, I'll come and train, I'll do it. Because Mr. Evans was starting his managerial career at this time. And
this is Steve Evans.
I couldn't work out whether he was just absolutely off his head or enthusiastic. And it seems he's off his head, I've got to say, completely off his head. And I think I don't deserve this. And I went back to Chesterfield, and that's how the coaching side of it and the fitness side of it started to materialise from there.
And that brought you on to, I guess, a new life, because you do fitness coaching, fitness training. And then, as we've heard, you share your life experiences for real.
Yeah, I work with Sporting Chance Clinic, and I go to all the academies in the football club, every professional football club. I try and get into schools if I can get into schools. I think it's important that we speak to the youth as well, not just in sport, but in society. And like I said, I think that it's important that someone that's walked the walk, and they're here to tell the story, and they've got the scars from it. I think it just carries a little bit more weight. It's not that I'm happy with what I've done or glamorising it in any way. I just want people to know that I'm not shy of being graphic, so to speak. You know what I mean? I want people to know how it is.
Oh, we heard that.
You hear half of it, but when I go to these and I tell the kids, I have to be graphic with them and tell them how it was, because they're going through the same problems. And sometimes for me, as a kid and as a lad, we don't talk. So it's important that you get across to kids that it's important that you do talk to people. Don't just bottle things in, because that's a massive problem for people. It really is.
This sounds a bit of a daft thing to say. When you speak to kids of teenage years, do they take you seriously, or do they think, oh, here's some...
Well, they listen. At first I think, oh, here we go, a footballer. But then as soon as they hear drugs, and they hear prison, and they hear clinic, and they hear being banned, it's like, oh, when their ears prick up, we'll have a listen to that. And I always know that I'll get them with my story. I just know I will, because it is a, well, you've heard it. It is a story to listen to. Only for the reason because I've come out the other end.
Yeah.
That's the reason. And as I say, I don't say it to glamorise it. I say it because I want to help people. There is light at the end of the tunnel. I never, not for 1 minute did I ever think I'd been an addict. Not for 1 minute did I think I'd been alcoholic. Good grief. Never thought I'd go to prison. Never thought I'd be in a clinic for 4 months. But here I am, and I'm here to tell the story. So I think it's important that kids do know that, because when I speak to my young girls, I always speak to my youngest, and it's just so difficult for kids now. It really is. It really, they've got everything kids have, but they've got nothing. If you know what I mean. At the push of a button, they can have anything they want. A phone, they can buy anything they want to buy, but not really knowing the value of money. So as parents, I think it's important that we teach kids the value. Don't just give them what we never had as kids, because they'll never learn the value of things, will they? So I think it's important to us to try and to help the youth of today. And if it means me going around and boring people week in, week out, I'll do it, because if it helps one person, I'm not bothered. I'll keep saying it, and I'll keep saying it. I'll keep boring people. I'll keep saying it.
What about the future?
Well, the future's bright. I'm involved with a charity, Zen, which is a local charity I've been involved with for 4 years, which is a non-profit organisation that I've been working for, which we do a lot for the community. And of course, getting back working with Ram TV, which I absolutely love. It's different for me because I'm overcoming again by doing this. And I've not stopped talking for 1 hour, but my biggest fear in life was talking in front of people. And now it seems to be that I'm getting paid to do it now with Ram TV. So life is funny. It throws you some curveballs, and I knew that when I finished playing football, that if I overcome that, hopefully something might come up, and here we are. So it's great. I love it.
Shane, it's been fascinating to talk to you.
No problem. I really enjoyed it, Colin.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hi, I'm Shane Nicholson. Watch me on Rams TV about the highs and lows of my career. 3 weeks. Yeah, it was awful. Because I'm going in there thinking I'm a big man. Then I get in there and I'm like, oh, that's how big a man I am. Until I come out and you think you grow because you've been to prison. And I know that sounds stupid, but when I go and do my talks in schools and things, I see the mentality of kids that people that's been to prison, they kind of like look up to them. And I think, come on, please. So I try. You have to get the message across to them, because prison to some people is not scary. It isn't. It's a home for some people. Some people haven't got homes, so that's a roof over their head. You know what I mean? And they're conditioned to them conditions. Some people. So, but not for me. No, I didn't want to go back there. Hi, I'm Shane Nicholson. Watch me on Rams TV about the highs and lows of my career. I had my call from my mum about 6:30. By 8:30 I'm still there, 10 o'clock still there, 4 in the morning I'm still there. By 7 I think, you know what, time to go. I'm sure he's waiting for me. So I drive home on my own, wired. And I burst through the hospice, the doors, and my mum and my 2 sisters are sat there. And as I go through the doors upstairs where my dad was, that they burst open, and the nurses shouted, "So you better come quick." So we dash upstairs, and he laid there. He'd not opened his eyes in 5 days. I hold his hand, and his eyes opened for the first time. The room for me just lit up, bright, and that was my epiphany then, why I became a believer. Because it just went white, and he passed away for his last breath. So why do I tell you that? Because in life, when I try and tell people about addictions and people say, you know, people don't understand it, I had a choice. You go see your dad for the last time alive, or you could take drugs. It's up to you. You make your choice. Hi, I'm Shane Nicholson. Watch me on Rams TV about the highs and lows of my career.
Shane, we've got to know you a little bit on Rams TV just recently as one of our pundits who comes in and watches the current Rams team. Do you enjoy watching football as opposed to those days of playing football?
I do now, yeah. Now I'm 10 years retired. I struggled for the first 2 or 3 years, I have to be honest. I think it made it worse actually staying involved in the game, because I was close to it. Some people might think that that was an easy way for me to get over it, but I found it difficult. But I'm absolutely loving what I'm doing now, so the journey I'm on now is incredible. So, do I miss football? Yeah, of course I miss it. I miss the big games, the big game that we've got coming up now. Of course you miss those days, you know, but I'm very happy in my life and the way it's going at the minute.